Think of the person in your life who seems untouchable. Not physically, but internally. The one who never seems rattled by what rattles everyone else. The one who moves through chaos, like it owes them something. The one who never raises their voice, and yet, somehow, always gets exactly what they came for. You have wondered, at some point, what they carry inside that you do not. The answer is not a skill. It is not luck. It is not even discipline in the way most people understand it. It is a complete and total restructuring of how the mind relates to reality itself. The ancient world had a name for this kind of person. They called it a king. Act 1. The illusion of the crown. Every true master of reality operates on a hidden frequency. While the average person reacts to the immediate storm, the strategist maps the wind. But there is a level of mastery that goes beyond mere strategy. A level where you no longer just navigate the board, but you become the ground upon which the game is played. This is the mind of a king. Most people chase power because they want to dominate others. They mistake authority for loud voices, sharp demands, and visible control. But true sovereignty has no need to shout. The king seeks power, not to rule the world, but to ensure that nothing in the world has the power to rule him. He looks past the surface of things. While the crowd is hypnotized by the physical crown, the throne, and the bowing cord, the king knows these are just symbols. Royalty is not a social status. It is a psychological state. True sovereignty is absolute command over oneself. While the average mind is a chaotic storm of reactions, impulses, and external conditioning, the king builds a sanctuary within his own consciousness, a space that is entirely untouchable by the noise of the outer world. To step into this mindset, we must dismantle everything the modern world taught you about success. We must look at the structural pillars that separate the ruler from the ruled. Act 2. The high seat, absolute perspective. This brings us to the first pillar of the king's philosophy, the principle of the high seat. In ancient traditions, the ruler's seat was always elevated above the court. This was never an exercise in vanity. It was a lesson in perspective. When you are standing on the ground, in the middle of the crowded courtyard, every minor skirmish feels like an existential war. A passing insult feels catastrophic. A temporary setback feels like the end of the world. But from the high seat, the entire landscape changes. You see the borders, the horizons, and the slow, heavy movements of the masses. You realize that today's crisis is nothing more than tomorrow's background noise. The king does not step down into the mud to argue with critics or fight petty battles. He allows the noise to pass harmlessly beneath him. He understands that his ultimate currency is his attention. To give your attention away to every passing distraction, every online debate, or every emotional trigger is to abdicate your throne. In ancient Zen philosophy, there is a deep parallel to this, the concept of fukanryo. It means thinking from the perspective of non-thinking, looking at reality without letting your personal biases color the view. The king views his life with a cold, crystalline clarity. He does not wish the terrain were different, nor does he curse the mountains in his way. He simply maps the topography and commands the march. Act 3. The weight of verdict, strategic silence. The second pillar is the law of the verdict. The amateur reacts instantly. They feel an emotion, and they immediately let it speak. They tweet, they scream, they strike out in anger, letting their temporary feelings write permanent laws for their life. The king understands the sheer gravity of his words. He knows that when a sovereign speaks, reality shifts to accommodate the decree. Therefore, he speaks less, but says infinitely more. Think of the absolute power of strategic silence. When you refuse to react immediately, you deny your environment power over you. You listen to the counsel of hard facts, filter out the emotional static of opinion, and allow your decisions to mature in the quiet dark of your mind. There are no dramatic confrontations, no shouting matches, no desperate attempts to prove a point. Instead, when the king finally speaks, it isn't an argument or a defense. It is a structural certainty. You do not force doors open with brute strength. You quietly assemble the correct key behind closed doors. By the time others realize what you have built, the outcome is already inevitable. Act 4. Sovereign detachment, the empty throne. The third pillar is the paradox of the empty throne. In deep historical lore, a true king is a servant to the realm, never its owner. He is completely detached from the need for external applause, validation, or immediate trophies. If the kingdom prospers, he doesn't let it inflate his ego. If the kingdom faces a drought, he does not break under the weight of panic. He treats both victory and defeat, not as emotional crises, but as high-fidelity data. Consider the profound concept of anti-fragility. A fragile object breaks under pressure. A robust object resists the blow, but remains unchanged. But a sovereign mind is anti-fragile. It actually thrives on chaos. When an unexpected disruption blocks the kingdom's path, the king does not merely find a way around it. He uses the raw energy of that disruption to propel his vision into a position he could have never reached on a smooth, easy road. He becomes invisible, not by hiding in the shadows, but by aligning himself so perfectly with the natural laws of reality, human nature, timing, and patience, that his actions create zero friction. Act 5. The long horizon, altering time. This leads us to the grand shift. How a king transforms his relationship with time. The amateur measures progress in days and weeks. They demand immediate feedback from the world. Burning out the second results are delayed. The king measures in seasons, decades, and generations. He understands the principle of the long horizon. When you intentionally stretch your timeline, your relationship with anxiety completely dissolves. An obstacle that feels absolutely catastrophic on a 24-hour scale becomes nothing more than a minor ripple on a 10-year trajectory. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active, deliberate positioning. It is the art of placing yourself exactly where the future must eventually arrive, then stepping back and letting the relentless momentum of time do the heavy lifting for you. While others compete for temporary status and instant gratification, you are quietly constructing the permanent infrastructure of tomorrow. Act 6. Mastering the player in the mirror. Ultimately, the architecture of an empire is nothing more than a mirror reflection of the ruler. The deepest trap for any king is never the brilliance or malice of his opponents. It is the blind spots of his own ego. Ego demands that we look smart, that we win every minor argument, and that we protect our pride at all costs. But pride is a massive structural flaw in any foundation. When you are blinded by the desperate desire to be right, you completely stop seeing what is actually happening. To conquer this, you must practice radical, unyielding intellectual honesty. You must become your own harshest auditor, constantly questioning your own assumptions, actively seeking out the flaws in your own defenses. In this domain, being proven wrong is never a defeat. It is a free upgrade to your system. You cannot bring order to your outer world until you have brought absolute order to your inner world. If there is tyranny in your habits, there will be chaos in your life. If there is weakness in your discipline, your borders will inevitably fall. Step off the chaotic, noisy surface of the world. Descend into the quiet, powerful depths of systemic thinking. The board is set. The pieces are yours to move. The throne of your life is waiting. Take your seat.